The electric buzzer's vicious hum echoed through Westfield Academy's trophy corridor as golden strands of hair floated to the marble floor like fallen leaves. Madison Sterling, captain of the championship cheerleading squad, felt the cold metal teeth tear through her signature ponytail, the same ponytail that had swung triumphantly at 17 state competitions. 3 football players surrounded her, their laughter bouncing off the glass cases filled with her team's victories, but she clutched the silver captain's whistle around her neck, already planning how she'd turn their cruel game into their worst nightmare. Before we dive into Madison's story, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you for being here. If this story resonates with you, maybe you've faced bullies yourself, or you know someone who has, please consider hitting that like button and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories matter, and this community we're building together is all about lifting each other up. And hey, if you want to help me continue bringing these stories to light, stories that need to be told and voices that need to be heard, there's a small thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me dedicate more time to finding and sharing these powerful narratives that remind us all that we're stronger than we think. Now, let's get back to Madison, who's about to show us exactly what that strength looks like. Madison had arrived at school that Tuesday morning at 7:15 a.m., her long blonde hair meticulously styled into the high ponytail that had become her trademark as captain of the Westfield Warriors cheerleading squad. She maintained standards that went beyond perfect routines and synchronized movements. Her appearance represented discipline, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that had led their squad to consecutive state championships for the past 3 years. The main hallway bustled with students preparing for another day at one of Connecticut's most prestigious private academies. Madison's designer sneakers squeaked against the polished floors as she made her way to the cheerleading practice room, nodding to teammates who called out morning greetings. Her ponytail swayed with each step, catching the fluorescent lights like spun gold. Looking perfect as always, Madison, called out Sophia Chen, her co-captain and best friend since freshman year. The morning practice went flawlessly. Madison led her squad through their competition routine, her voice clear and commanding as she called out counts and corrections. The whistle punctuated their movements, its sharp blast marking transitions and stopping errors before they could take root. Every girl on the team respected that whistle light represented authority earned through dedication and skill. But respect wasn't universal at Westfield Academy. Chase Remington watched from the doorway of the weight room, his massive frame blocking the light. As quarterback of the Warriors football team, he commanded his own sphere of influence, one built on intimidation rather than inspiration. His 2 constant shadows, Derek Vaughn and Marcus Powell, flanked him like loyal guard dogs. "Check out Little Miss Perfect," Chase muttered, his eyes tracking Madison's movements, acting like she owns the place with that stupid whistle. Derek snickered. "My dad says the cheerleading budget should go to the football team anyway. We're the ones bringing in the alumni donations. Everything they get is because of us," Marcus added, cracking his knuckles. Maybe it's time someone reminded them who really runs this school. Chase's lips curved into a cruel smile. He'd been planning something special for weeks, ever since Madison had reported him to the administration for harassing freshman cheerleaders. The 2-day suspension had been a slap on the wrist, but the humiliation of being called out by a girl 11, the cheerleading captain, had festered like an infected wound. "I've got something that'll take her down a few pegs," Chase said, pulling out his phone to show them a video. "Remember my cousin's barbershop prank channel? Well, I borrowed something special." The practice ended at 8:30 a.m., and Madison stayed behind to review video footage of their latest routine. The practice room emptied gradually, her teammates heading to their first period classes. Sophia lingered by the door. "You coming to calculus?" she asked. "In a minute," Madison replied, focused on her tablet. "I want to fix that transition in the second verse. Something's still off." Sophia hesitated. "Want me to wait?" "No. Go ahead. I'll catch up." The door clicked shut, leaving Madison alone with the mirrors and the faint smell of hairspray that permanently permeated the space. She made notes on her tablet, already planning adjustments for the afternoon practice. The championship was only 3 weeks away, and Westfield's reputation for excellence rested heavily on her shoulders. She didn't hear the door open again. Well? Chase's voice made her spine stiffen, the queen bee all alone in her hive. Madison turned slowly, her hand instinctively moving to her whistle. Chase stood in the doorway with Derek and Marcus, their bodies forming a wall of muscle and malice. "The practice room is reserved for cheerleaders," Madison said, her voice steady despite the alarm bells ringing in her head. "You need to leave." "Or what?" Chase stepped forward, his football cleats clicking ominously on the hardwood. "You'll blow your little whistle? Run to Principal Morrison again?" "If necessary," Madison stood her ground, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "You're already on thin ice after last time." Chase's face darkened. "You know what your problem is, Madison? You think that whistle makes you special? You think being captain means you can disrespect the people who actually matter at this school. Respecting women isn't disrespect to you?" Madison shot back. "It's basic human decency." Big words from someone who's about to learn a lesson in humility. The attack came so fast, Madison barely had time to react. Derek and Marcus rushed forward, grabbing her arms and pinning them behind her back. She struggled, trying to break free, but their grip was iron tight. "Let go of me," she tried to kick, but Marcus shifted to trap her legs. "This is assault. I'll have you expelled." "No, you won't," Chase said calmly, pulling something from his backpack. "Because after today, you won't be captain anymore. You won't be anything but a joke." Madison's eyes widened as she saw what he held, a professional-grade hair buzzer, the kind used in barber shops. Its metal teeth gleamed under the practice room lights. "You wouldn't dare," she breathed. "Wouldn't I?" Chase flipped the switch, and the buzzer hummed to life with a menacing buzz. "You see, Madison, there's a natural order to things. Football players at the top, cheerleaders beneath us, literally and figuratively. But you've forgotten your place. Time for a reminder." "This is insane," Madison thrashed against Derek and Marcus's hold. "You can't." "Hold her steady," Chase commanded. Madison felt tears of rage and humiliation burn her eyes as Chase moved behind her, her beautiful ponytail, the one she'd spent years growing and maintaining, swayed with her struggles. "Please," she said, hating the plea in her voice. "Don't do this." "Too late for begging," Chase said. "Should have thought about that before you tried to play whistleblower." The buzzer touched the base of her ponytail, and Madison felt the vibration against her skull. Then came the sickening sensation of hair being severed, the weight of her ponytail suddenly gone. She watched in the mirror as Chase held up the detached ponytail like a trophy, 18 inches of golden silk that had been part of her identity. But he wasn't done. "There," Chase said finally, switching off the buzzer. "Much better. Now you look as worthless as you are." Derek and Marcus released her, and Madison stumbled forward, her hands flying to her devastated hair. The mirror reflected a stranger. Patches of scalp showed through the hack job, tufts of hair stuck out at odd angles. Her signature ponytail lay on the floor like a dead thing. The three boys laughed, the sound echoing off the mirrors and embedding itself in Madison's memory. "Post it," Chase told Derek, who'd been filming on his phone. "Caption it, 'Westfield's whistleblower gets buzzed.' Make sure to tag everyone." "No!" Madison lunged for the phone, but Marcus shoved her back. She hit the floor hard, her palms stinging from the impact. "Stay down," Chase warned, "and maybe think twice before you blow that whistle on anyone again. This school belongs to us, not some uppity cheerleader who thinks she's better than everyone else." They left her there, crumpled on the practice room floor, surrounded by the remnants of her hair. Madison's fingers found her captain's whistle, still hanging from its chain. The metal felt cold against her skin, but something else burned hotter, not humiliation, but fury. She pulled herself to her feet, avoiding her reflection. Her phone buzzed with notifications as the video spread through Westfield's social media network. Each ping felt like another slap, but Madison didn't check them. Instead, she gathered the scattered pieces of her hair, placing them carefully in her practice bag. The hallway was mercifully empty as she made her way to the single-stall bathroom near the science wing. She locked the door and finally faced her reflection fully. The damage was even worse up close. Chase had deliberately created a pattern that would be impossible to fix without shaving her head completely. But as Madison stared at her butchered hair, something shifted inside her. The initial shock gave way to cold calculation. Chase thought he'd broken her, thought she'd slink away in shame and give up her position. He thought the whistle around her neck was just a symbol of meaningless authority. He was wrong. Madison pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. She scrolled past her parents' numbers, past Sophia's concerned texts, and found the name she needed: Emma Fitzgerald, former Westfield cheerleading captain from the class of 2019 and current law student at Yale. "Emma, it's Madison Sterling. I need your help." As she explained what had happened, Madison felt the fury crystallize into purpose. Chase and his followers had made a critical error. They'd attacked her physically, recorded it, and distributed the evidence. In their arrogance, they'd handed her exactly what she needed: document everything. Emma instructed: screenshot every post, save the video, take photos of your hair from multiple angles. And Madison, don't wash your hair or try to fix it yet. As horrible as it is, it's evidence. What about the administration? Should I report it now? Not yet. If Chase's father is on the board like you said, we need more than just assault. We need a pattern, witnesses, and, most importantly, we need them to incriminate themselves further. How? By being exactly who you've always been: a leader. They expect you to crumble, to hide. Instead, if you're going to walk into that cafeteria at lunch with your head high, you're going to blow that whistle and command your squad like nothing happened. Madison's free hand touched the destroyed remnants of her hair. "I look like someone who survived an attack and refused to break." Emma interrupted. "Trust me, Madison, I've seen how these types operate. They'll escalate when they realize you're not backing down, and when they do, you'll be ready." The bathroom door rattled. "Madison, are you in there?" Sophia's voice, worried and urgent. "I have to go," Madison told Emma. "Thank you. Remember, document everything." And Madison, that whistle isn't just a symbol. At Westfield, it has real power. Read your captain's handbook. Section 12. The line went dead. Madison unlocked the door to find Sophia and half the cheerleading squad crowded outside, their faces painted with shock and rage. "Oh my God," Sophia breathed, her hand covering her mouth. "Madison, I saw the video. We all did. This is unacceptable," Madison finished. She stood straighter, squaring her shoulders. "Emergency squad meeting. Now." "But class," Madison's hand found her whistle. The sharp blast cut through the hallway, commanding instant attention from everyone within earshot. It was a sound that meant authority at Westfield, a call that demanded response. "Emergency squad meeting," she repeated. Now, as her squad fell into formation behind her, Madison felt the first stirrings of her plan. Emma had mentioned the captain's handbook, a dusty tome she'd skimmed during her appointment ceremony. Section 12. What was in Section 12? The cafeteria buzzed with typical lunch-hour chaos when Madison entered at 12:15 p.m. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. As students registered her appearance, she heard the whispers, saw the phones lifting to capture photos, felt the weight of hundreds of eyes. But Madison didn't falter. She walked to the cheerleaders' usual table with the same confidence she brought to every competition. Her squad flanked her like an honor guard, their faces set in expressions of solidarity. Chase sat at the football table across the cafeteria, surrounded by his teammates. His grin widened as Madison entered, clearly expecting her to flee at the first sign of mockery. "Holy shit," he called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Looks like someone had a rough morning." "What happened? Madison, lose a fight with a lawnmower?" Laughter rippled through his table. But Madison didn't react. She sat down, pulled out her lunch, and began eating as if nothing was wrong. The cafeteria watched in stunned silence. "Yo, Chase," Derek stage whispered. "I don't think she got the message." Chase's face reddened. He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Hey, Patches," he shouted, using what he clearly thought was a clever nickname. "I'm talking to you." Madison continued eating, her squad following her lead. The silence from the cheerleaders' table was louder than any response. "Whatever," Chase muttered. But Madison caught the uncertainty in his voice. "Crazy bitch." Sophia leaned close. "You okay?" "Perfect," Madison replied, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Just planning this afternoon's practice. We have championships to win." The lunch period continued with an undercurrent of tension. Madison felt Chase's glare boring into her back, felt the weight of the entire school's attention, but she also felt something else shift in the atmosphere. What Chase had intended as humiliation was transforming into something else entirely. When the bell rang at 1 p.m., Madison stood and raised her whistle. The blast cut through the noise, and every cheerleader in the room immediately stood at attention. "Practice at 3:30 p.m. sharp," she announced. "Full squad. No exceptions." As they filed out, Madison caught Chase's expression. The smug satisfaction had been replaced by something darker, anger at being ignored, at having his power play dismissed. Good. Let him stew. Let him escalate. During her free period, Madison finally located the captain's handbook in the cheerleading office. The leather-bound book had been signed by every captain since Westfield's founding, their handwritten notes filling the margins. Section 12 was titled Emergency Protocols and Captain's Authority. Madison read with growing amazement. The whistle wasn't just ceremonial, it carried actual administrative power during school events. The cheerleading captain could halt any athletic activity if student safety was at risk. They could lock down facilities, summon security, even override coaches' decisions in extreme circumstances. A handwritten note from a captain in 1991 caught her eye. Used Section 12 to stop a hazing incident during homecoming. Principal backed me up. "The whistle is your weapon, use it wisely." Madison's fingers traced the words. Chase thought he understood power, the blunt force of intimidation and humiliation. But real power came from legitimate authority, properly wielded. And he'd just given her every reason to wield it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Saw the video. It's viral on TikTok. Good, more evidence. Stay strong." The afternoon practice arrived faster than expected. Madison stood before her squad. 32 girls, ranging from freshmen to seniors, all staring at her butchered hair with barely concealed rage. "I know you're angry," Madison began, her voice steady. "I'm angry too, but we're not going to let this derail us. We have a championship to win, and nothing is going to stop us." "But Madison," a freshman ventured, "how can you just ignore it?" "I'm not ignoring it," Madison replied. "I'm choosing when and how to respond. Chase Remington thinks he broke me. He thinks this," she gestured to her hair, "matters more than this." She held up her whistle. "He's about to learn otherwise." "What's the plan?" Sophia asked. Madison smiled for the first time since the attack. "We're going to practice like normal. Perfect our routine. And at Friday's homecoming game, when the entire school is watching, when the alumni are in the stands and the local news is broadcasting, that's when we strike." "How?" another girl asked. "Leave that to me. For now, we practice. We show everyone that the Westfield Warriors cheerleaders don't break. We bend. We adapt. But we never break." The practice was electric. Madison's squad channeled their fury into flawless execution, hitting every stunt with vicious precision. Word had spread, and a crowd gathered to watch through the windows. Even some football players stopped to stare. Though Chase and his inner circle were notably absent, as practice ended at 5:30 p.m., Madison gathered her squad in a tight circle. "Remember?" she said. "They expect us to crumble. They expect me to quit, to hand over this whistle in shame. Instead, we're going to show them what real strength looks like. Not one word about our plans. Let them think they've won." The squad placed their hands in the center. "Madison's on top. Warriors on 3. She commanded. 1, 2, 3. "Warriors!" The shout echoed through the gym. Strong and unified. Madison felt the power of it vibrate through her chest, felt the loyalty of her squad-like armor against Chase's cruelty. That evening, Madison sat in her room, laptop open to the school's policy database. She'd covered her head with a silk scarf, unable to bear the sight of her ruined hair, yet Her mother had cried when she'd seen it. Her father had threatened to call lawyers. But Madison had asked them to wait. "Let me handle this my way," she'd said. "Please." Now, she pieced together her plan with methodical precision. The homecoming game would have thousands in attendance. The cheerleaders would perform at halftime, as always. But this year would be different. Her phone rang an unknown number. "Madison Sterling?" a male voice asked. "Yes? This is Jordan Walsh from Channel 8 News. We've seen the video of what happened to you. Would you like to comment?" Madison paused. "Considering. Not yet," she said finally. "But be at the homecoming game on Friday. You'll have your story then." She hung up before he could respond. Let the anticipation build. Let Chase wonder why she hadn't crumbled. Why she hadn't reported him. Why? She continued to walk the halls with her destroyed hair uncovered and her head high. Thursday passed in a blur of classes and preparation. Chase's harassment escalated, crude drawings taped to her locker, anonymous messages flooding her social media, his friends accidentally bumping into her in the halls. Madison documented everything, screenshot every message, saved every piece of evidence. "Why aren't you doing anything?" Sophia demanded after Chase had accidentally spilled his sports drink on Madison's textbook. "This is getting worse." "Because he's not done yet," Madison replied calmly, wiping off her book. "He needs to feel completely secure in his power. The higher they climb, the harder they fall." Sophia finished. "I hope you know what you're doing. Trust me." Thursday evening, Madison made a crucial discovery while reviewing footage from previous games. She noticed something. The metal gates around the football field were electronically controlled, connected to the school's security system. And according to Section 12 of the captain's handbook, she had emergency override authority during official school events. She placed another call to Emma Fitzgerald. "Hypothetically," Madison said, "if someone were to lock down the football field during a game, trapping certain individuals inside, while law enforcement arrived, hypothetically," Emma replied, a smile in her voice, "that would be perfectly within the cheerleading captain's emergency authority, especially if there was imminent threat to student safety. And if those individuals had, say, assaulted a student and distributed video evidence of said assault, then I'd say justice was about to be served." "Madison, do you have everything documented?" "Everything. Videos, messages, witness statements." 3 of Chase's teammates came forward private. Apparently this isn't his first assault, just the first one caught on camera. "Good. I'll be at the game tomorrow with some friends from the Yale Law Clinic. We'll be ready." Friday arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made football sacred in New England. Madison woke at 5 a.m., her nerves singing with anticipation. Tonight, everything would change. She dressed carefully in her captain's uniform, the one she'd worn to 17 championships. Her destroyed hair was pulled back as best she could manage, covered partially by a Warriors baseball cap. The whistle hung around her neck, polished until it gleamed. School passed in a blur. Chase and his crew were in high spirits, joking loudly about their guaranteed victory against Riverside High. They'd painted Warriors Rule on their faces, completely oblivious to the storm brewing around them. Madison held one final squad meeting at 2 p.m. "Tonight, we perform the routine of our lives," she told her girls. "No matter what happens after halftime, I want you to know how proud I am to be your captain. You've shown more courage this week than most people show in a lifetime. We're with you." "Madison," Sophia said, speaking for the entire squad, "whatever happens, we're with you." The stadium filled steadily. As game time approached, Madison watched from the sidelines as thousands took their seats. Students, parents, alumni, and yes, she noted with satisfaction, several news vans in the parking lot. Word had spread about something big happening at tonight's game. Chase strutted onto the field with his team, soaking in the cheers. He caught Madison's eye and made a scissors motion with his fingers, miming, cutting hair. His teammates laughed. "Enjoy it while it lasts," Madison murmured. The first half flew by. Westfield dominated, with Chase throwing touchdown after touchdown. The crowd roared its approval, and Madison waited, patient as a spider in her web. Halftime arrived at 8:45 p.m. The cheerleaders took the field for their routine, and Madison felt the crowd's attention shift to her. Whispers rippled through the stands as people noticed her hair or what was left of it. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer boomed, "please welcome your Westfield Warriors cheerleaders." Led by Captain Madison Sterling, the music started, and Madison's squad moved as one. Their routine was flawless, every movement sharp and synchronized. But Madison had added something new at each transition. She blew her whistle, the sound cutting through the night air like a battle cry. As the routine reached its climax, Madison moved to center field. The music cut out, leaving only the sound of her whistle, blown in. 3 sharp bursts, the emergency signal. The stadium lights flickered. The electronic gates around the field began to close with mechanical precision, their locks engaging with definitive clicks. Chase, standing with his team near the bench, looked around in confusion. Madison raised a wireless microphone, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent stadium. "3 days ago, I was assaulted in our school. 3 football players held me down, while Chase Remington shaved my head with electric clippers. They filmed it. They distributed it. They thought it would break me." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Parents stood up, craning to see. The news cameras swiveled to focus on Madison, but they made one mistake. Madison continued, her voice growing stronger. They forgot that this whistle represents more than just cheerleading. It represents leadership, integrity, and the protection of every student at Westfield Academy. Chase started toward her, his face contorted with rage, but found his path blocked by Madison's entire squad, forming a protective circle around their captain. Under Section 12 of the Westfield Academy bylaws, Madison declared, "I am exercising my authority as cheerleading captain to initiate emergency lockdown procedures due to imminent threat to student safety. No one enters or leaves this field until law enforcement arrives." "You can't do this," Chase shouted, his voice cracking. "This is insane! Open the gates!" "I can, and I have." Madison held up a folder. "In here are sworn statements from 7 students describing various assaults by Chase Remington and his associates. Screenshots of threats, messages planning further attacks, and of course, video evidence of my assault." The crowd erupted. Parents shouted, demanding answers. Principal Morrison rushed onto the field, but the gates remained locked. "Miss Sterling," the principal called out, "this is highly irregular." "What's irregular?" Madison interrupted. "Is allowing star athletes to terrorize other students without consequence. What's irregular is a system that protects bullies because their fathers donate to the school. Tonight, that ends." Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Chase's face had gone pale, his bravado evaporating as the reality of his situation sank in. Derek and Marcus tried to climb the fence, only to find security guards waiting on the other side. Emma's law school friends, Madison realized with satisfaction. "You planned this?" Chase said, his voice hollow. "You let me think I'd won. I learned something this week," Madison replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Real power isn't about intimidation or humiliation. It's about standing up for what's right, even when someone tries to strip away everything you think defines you." She touched her butchered hair, no longer hiding it. "You thought my hair was my identity. You were wrong. My identity is in my actions, my choices, my refusal to let bullies win. And you, Chase Remington, are about to learn what accountability looks like." The police cars pulled up to the stadium, their lights painting the night in reds and blues. Officers approached the gates, which Madison unlocked with a code she'd memorized from the handbook. As the officers entered the field, Madison blew her whistle, one final timino, the emergency signal, but the victory note her squad used after winning championships. The crowd erupted again, but this time in applause. It started in the student section, spreading through the stands like wildfire. Parents stood, clapping for the girl who'd turned her humiliation into triumph. Even some football players joined in. Tired of living under Chase's reign of terror, Madison watched as Chase was led away in handcuffs. Derek and Marcus, following the assault charges, would stick. The video evidence was indisputable. But more than that, the culture of silence that had protected them was shattered. Sophia appeared at her side, tears streaming down her face. Madison, I can't even, we're not done yet, Madison said, turning to face her squad. We have a statement to make. The cheerleaders reformed their circle at center field. Madison stood in the middle, her whistle raised high. To anyone who's been bullied, harassed, or assaulted, she called out, her voice carrying to every corner of the stadium. You are not alone. Your voice matters. And sometimes, the best response to those who try to tear you down is to stand tall and blow the whistle on injustice. The squad began to chant, their voices joining in unified strength. We are warriors. We are strong. We stand together. Right the wrong. The chant spread through the crowd. Thousands of voices joining in. By Dater, Madison felt the power of it wash over her, healing something that Chase's cruelty had tried to break. Later, as the stadium emptied and the news crews packed up their equipment, Madison sat on the bleachers with her squad. Her phone buzzed with messages, interview requests, words of support. Even a call from the governor's office about a potential anti-bullying campaign. So what happens now? A freshman cheerleader asked. Madison smiled, fingering her captain's whistle. Now we heal. We compete. We show everyone that warriors don't just win on the field. We win by standing up for what's right. She looked at her destroyed hair in her phone's camera, already planning the pixie cut that would replace it. Sometimes, she realized, you had to lose something to find your true strength. Captain? Sophia asked. What made you so sure the plan would work? Madison held up the captain's handbook, its leather cover worn smooth by decades of hands. Because I learned something important, she said. This whistle isn't just a symbol. It's a responsibility, and when you accept that responsibility fully, when you're willing to sacrifice everything to protect others, that's when you discover what real power looks like. The stadium lights began to shut off one by one. But Madison didn't move. She had callbacks to make, statements to prepare, and a championship to win in 3 weeks. Chase Remington had tried to destroy her, but instead, he'd created something he never expected. Leader who understood that true strength came not from intimidation, but from the courage to blow the whistle when it mattered most. As the final light went dark, Madison Sterling stood up, squared her shoulders, and walked off the field with her head held high. Behind her, 31 cheerleaders followed in perfect formation, their footsteps echoing through the night like a drumbeat of change. The whistle hung silent around her neck, but its message had been heard loud and clear. At Westfield Academy, the rules had changed, and Madison Sterling, with her butchered hair and unbreakable spirit, had changed them. The Westfield Academy campus buzzed with unprecedented energy. Monday morning, Madison Sterling walked through the main entrance at 7 a.m. sharp, her newly styled pixie cut catching the morning light. The professional stylist had worked miracles with what Chase's clippers had left behind, creating an edgy, sophisticated look that somehow made her appear more powerful than her long ponytail ever had. Madison, over here. Jordan Walsh from Channel 8 News stood with his crew near the trophy cases. Just a quick follow-up on Friday night's events? Madison paused, adjusting her captain's whistle. Mr. Walsh, I'll be holding a press conference at noon. Right now, I have a team to lead. The hallways parted for her like the Red Sea. Students who'd never spoken to her before nodded respectfully. A group of freshman girls approached hesitantly, one clutching a handmade sign reading, "Blow the whistle on bullying." Can we join the movement? The girl asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Madison smiled. It's not my movement. It belongs to everyone who's ever been silenced. Spread the word. We're meeting in the auditorium after school to discuss forming an official anti-bullying coalition. Principal Morrison intercepted her outside the cheerleading room. His usually stern face showed a mixture of admiration and concern. Miss Sterling, the board wants to see you at 10 a.m. Chase Remington's father is upset. I imagine he is, Madison replied evenly. Will the board also be reviewing the 7 sworn statements about his son's behavior, or the threatening messages sent to my squad members over the weekend? Morrison's expression tightened. There have been messages? Madison pulled out her phone, showing him screenshot after screenshot. 43 teammates and parents, all demanding we drop the charges. Emma Fitzgerald from Yale Law is documenting everything. This is witness intimidation, Morrison said, his face flushing. I'll need copies of everything, already sent to your email. Along with the superintendent and the state attorney's office, Madison pocketed her phone. If you'll excuse me, Principal Morrison, I have practice to run. The practice room fell silent as Madison entered. Her entire squad was already assembled, along with several unexpected faces, girls from the soccer team, the debate club, even some former cheerleaders who'd quit under mysterious circumstances. Captain Sophia stepped forward. They all have stories about Chase and his crew. They want to help. Madison surveyed the room, seeing pain and determination in equal measure. Then let's give them a voice. But first, we practice. Championships don't win themselves. The next hour was intense. Madison pushed her squad harder than ever, channeling the week's emotions into perfection. Every stunt hit with military precision. Every cheer rang with defiant power. The new attendees watched in awe as Madison commanded the floor, her whistle cutting through the air with absolute authority. At 9:45 a.m., Madison changed into professional attire for the board meeting. Sophia helped her with the blazer, both of them trying not to think about how different this was from their usual pre-competition rituals. You know they'll try to minimize this, Sophia warned. Mr. Remington basically owns half the board. Let him try, Madison said, pinning her captain's insignia to her lapel. Money can't buy its way out of video evidence and federal charges. The boardroom was packed. 12 board members sat at a horseshoe-shaped table, with Charles Remington prominently positioned at the center. His resemblance to his son was unmistakable, the same cruel eyes, the same entitled sneer. Miss Sterling, he began without preamble. You've created quite a spectacle, attacking innocent boys, abusing your position. Mr. Remington, Madison interrupted calmly. I assume you've seen the video of your son assaulting me? A harmless prank, battery, assault with a weapon, distribution of humiliating content, conspiracy to commit harassment. Emma Fitzgerald entered the room, her Yale Law blazer pristine. I'm representing Miss Sterling and 7 other victims of your son's systematic abuse. The board shifted uncomfortably. Madison noticed several members avoiding Charles Remington's glare. Furthermore, Emma continued, placing a thick folder on the table. We have evidence of a culture of intimidation fostered by certain athletes at this school. Miss Sterling's brave actions on Friday have encouraged 34 students to come forward with their own experiences. This is ridiculous. Charles slammed his hand on the table. Boys will be boys. No. Madison stood, her voice cutting through his bluster. Criminals will be criminals. And boys who are raised to believe their actions have no consequences become men who perpetuate that cycle. She pulled out her phone, projecting images onto the boardroom screen. This is Sarah Chen, who transferred schools after Chase cornered her at last year's winter formal. This is Michael Torres, whose arm was broken accidentally during practice when he stood up to Derek Vaughn. This is enough. Board member Patricia Williams, a respected judge, raised her hand. Mr. Remington, I motion that you recuse yourself from this discussion due to clear conflict of interest. Seconded. 3 other board members said simultaneously. Charles's face purpled. This is my school. I've donated millions, which does not buy you the right to enable your son's criminal behavior. Judge Williams replied, Security, please escort Mr. Remington out. As Charles was removed, still shouting about lawsuits and withdrawn donations, Madison felt a shift in the room's atmosphere. The remaining board members looked at her with newfound respect. Miss Sterling, Judge Williams said, tell us what you need. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Madison presented her comprehensive plan, mandatory sensitivity training for all athletes, an independent review board for bullying complaints, and a complete overhaul of the school's reporting system. By the time she finished, even the most conservative board members were nodding. We'll implement everything immediately, Judge Williams announced. And Miss Sterling, the board formally commends your courage. You've shown more leadership in 1 week than many adults show in a lifetime. Madison left the boardroom to find the hallway packed with students. Word had spread about the meeting, and spontaneous applause erupted as she emerged. She raised her whistle in acknowledgement, then headed to the cafeteria for the promised press conference. 4 days ago, I was assaulted for doing my job protecting younger students from harassment. My attackers thought destroying my appearance would destroy my voice. They were wrong. Cameras clicked furiously as Madison continued. Today, Westfield Academy begins a new chapter, one where every student, regardless of their status or their parents' bank accounts, is safe from bullying and assault. Miss Sterling, a CNN reporter called out. Chase Remington's lawyer claims this was a misunderstanding. Comments? Madison smiled coldly. I'm sure the jury will find the high-definition video very enlightening. Next question. The press conference continued for 30 minutes, with Madison fielding questions with poise that belied her 17 years. When it ended, she found her parents waiting by the exit. Sweetheart, her mother said, tears in her eyes. We're so proud. Thanks. Mom. Madison hugged them both. But I'm not done yet. The afternoon brought more revelations. Detective Martinez from the state police interviewed Madison and 17 other students, building cases that extended far beyond the initial assault. Chase's reign of terror had touched dozens of lives. And finally, victims felt safe enough to speak. We're looking at multiple felony charges. Detective Martinez told Madison privately, your documentation is impeccable. You'd make a good lawyer. Maybe someday, Madison replied. Right now, I have a championship to win. The next 2 weeks flew by in a whirlwind of legal proceedings, interviews, and intensive practice. Chase, Derek, and Marcus were formally expelled and charged with multiple counts of assault, battery, and harassment. Mr. Remington's threats of lawsuits evaporated when the FBI opened an investigation into his alleged witness tampering, but Madison's focus remained on her squad. Every practice pushed them harder, forging their shared trauma into unbreakable determination. The day before championships, she gathered them one final time. Tomorrow, we compete not just for a trophy, but for every person who's been told to stay quiet, to not make waves, to accept abuse as normal. We're not just cheerleaders. We're warriors for change. The Connecticut State Cheerleading Championships were held at the Hartford Civic Center. Madison stood backstage, her squad in perfect formation behind her. Her pixie cut was adorned with tiny warrior braids, each one woven by a teammate that morning in a ceremony of solidarity. Nervous? Sophia asked. No, Madison replied honestly. We've already won the battle that mattered. This is just the victory lap. Their names were called, and Madison led her squad onto the mat. The crowd erupted. Word of her story had spread nationwide, and supporters filled the arena. She saw Emma Fitzgerald in the front row, Judge Williams with the board, Detective Martinez with his family, and dozens of students from Westfield who'd made the journey to support them. Madison raised her whistle. In the moment of silence before their music started, she thought about that horrible morning in the practice room. The buzz of the clippers, the feeling of powerlessness. Then she thought about the power she'd claimed, the voices she'd amplified, the change she'd sparked. The whistle's blast was clear and strong. The music erupted, and the Westfield Warriors took flight. Their routine was 3 minutes and 30 seconds of controlled fury. Every stunt defied gravity. Every tumbling pass pushed the boundaries of possibility. Madison's voice rose above the music, commanding and encouraging in equal measure. When Sarah Reynolds, their smallest flyer, wobbled on a difficult stunt, Madison's whistle brought instant correction, the squad adjusting seamlessly. The final formation knew something Madison had added just days before. As the music reached its crescendo, the squad formed the shape of a whistle. With Madison at its center, she stood tall, her actual whistle raised high. As her teammates created a visual representation of the instrument that had become a symbol of justice, the music ended. For a heartbeat, silence filled the arena. Then the crowd exploded. 15,000 people rose to their feet, their applause shaking the rafters. Madison saw hardened judges wiping away tears, competing teams joining the ovation. This wasn't just about cheerleading anymore, it was about courage, resilience, and the power of standing up. At the victory celebration, Madison was approached by a woman in an expensive suit. "Miss Sterling, I'm Rebecca Thompson from ESPN. We'd like to do a documentary about your story, focusing on how you've changed the conversation about bullying in schools." Madison considered as 11:40, then nodded. "On one condition, equal screen time for all the victims who came forward. This isn't just my story." "Deal." Later that night, Madison sat in her room, the championship trophy on her desk, her captain's whistle in her hand. Her phone buzzed with messages: college scholarship offers, speaking engagement requests, notes from girls around the country sharing their own stories of standing up to bullies. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Her 12-year-old sister peeked in. "Maddie, I wanted to tell you something. Come in." Lily, her sister, sat on the bed, fidgeting. "There's this boy at my school. He's been pulling my hair, calling me names. I never said anything because, well, he's popular." Madison moved to sit beside her sister, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And now I know popularity doesn't protect bullies. Tomorrow, I'm telling the principal, and if he doesn't listen, I'll go higher, just like you did." Madison hugged her sister tight, feeling the ripple effects of her actions spreading outward. One whistle blast had started an avalanche of change. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. As Lily left, Madison walked to her mirror. Her reflection showed a young woman transformed not just physically with her bold new haircut, but internally, where once she'd found identity in her appearance, she now found it in her actions. Where once she'd led through perfection, she now led through courage. Chase Remington had tried to strip away her power by destroying her appearance. Instead, he'd revealed a truth that would echo through generations of students. Real power doesn't come from intimidation or inheritance. It comes from the courage to blow the whistle, to stand up when it would be easier to stay down, and to transform personal pain into collective progress. Madison Sterling, 17 years old, championship cheerleading captain, and accidental revolutionary, smiled at her reflection. Her pixie cut had grown out slightly, stylish and fierce. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles to fight. But tonight, she'd rest in the knowledge that one whistle, blown at the right moment with the right conviction, could indeed lock down a field of bullies and open up a world of change. As she prepared for bed, Madison's phone lit up with one final message. A girl from Texas, 15 years old, had successfully reported her bullies after seeing Madison's story. "Thank you for showing me that the whistle works." The message read, "Today, I found my voice." Madison typed back, "Your voice was always there. Sometimes it just takes courage to let it sing. Keep blowing that whistle. The world is listening." She set down her phone, her whistle on the nightstand beside her championship trophy. Tomorrow, she'd wake up and continue the fight. But tonight, Madison Sterling slept peacefully, knowing that sometimes the greatest victories come disguised as the worst defeats, and that a single whistle blast, blown with conviction and courage, really could change the world.